which actually does get to maybe the last thing we should talk about here, which is Jayden Daniels. Like, if he goes out and balls in this game, like, we're talking about serious MVP conversation. And I don't mean to like say that to be sports talk radio hyperbolic guy. It's just at some point, if you're the quarterback on an 8-2 football team that is having one of the most prolific rookie seasons ever and is is on his way to being a 4,000 yard passer to 1,000 yard rusher, like, of course you're in the MVP conversation. But this is the kind of game that an MVP can elevate his team, and Pittsburgh doesn't have that. Like, Russ has been fine, but he hasn't been what Jayden is. And if Jayden goes out and elevates this team and plays like he did against Cincinnati or some of these other masterful games that he's had, I mean, run wild, morning talk shows, have a blast.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun. You're like you said, like, has there been a more, quote unquote, more valuable addition in the offseason? Like, it's hard. I'd be hard pressed to think of one. And again, the MVP is a lot of things, a little popularity contest, little dog and pony show. Oh, last year he deserved it, so this year he's going to get it, kind of thing. But I definitely, the more he does stuff like this, the more plays he makes. And I think, if some of the national media people were to watch him on a game-to-game basis the way we watch him, I think that conversation is probably moving to the forefront. Because when you talk to people, who, like the quarterback academy guy, I can't remember his name at the moment, but that's the way they talk about him. People who watch the team a lot understand his impact on this. So yeah, I definitely think in a game like this versus a defense like this. Now, I will say this is probably the best defense the Commanders have faced all season. Like, I think definitively best defense. And so that's going to be a very different challenge for him. But
right,
like we've said, he just seems to, and you said this, like, he just seems to kind of meet each test. And so, like, what is his answer? What is his essay? What does his dissertation to this test look like? I'm really excited to see. I'm really excited to see what his solution is to this Pittsburgh Steelers issue.
So with that, let's close with the passing game side of it, because we talked about the run game, and there's obviously some stuff. I think when you watch the Jets game, if I'm Kliff, I'm like, or an Anthony Lynn, I'm like, ooh, that run, that was all right. Yeah, I think Brian Robinson could do that. So there's some, as good as they've been, there's some potential there. But if you talk about attacking them via the pass with Jayden and setting up his game, how does that look against this defense? Terry, 1-on-1 against Joey Porter Jr. That is a battle on some of that man-to-man stuff. But Terry's great in man-to-man situations. His competitive level rises to the absolute top. But there's also, I think, been some other opportunities for guys like Luke McCaffrey. I saw Mark Bullock, our buddy, put this, like, there's going to be a game that Luke McCaffrey has 6 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And everyone's going to be like, where did this come from? It's like, he's open all the time. Just other stuff keeps happening. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So whether it's Zach, whether it's someone like Luke, Diami, OZ, Terry in that matchup, like, where are you attacking if you're Kliff in this one?
Yeah, it is tough because I think they are pretty talented in the back end. I think they got good safeties that cover well. So you think about the Zach Ertz matchup, he's been able to exploit that every single week. Is that there this week? I'm not sure. This is probably the best safety duo we've played this year. I think Joey Porter Jr. on the outside is good in man-to-man coverage situations. Like, he's good at that. Like, his ability to reach out and touch you is very impressive. And can you beat him? Sure you can, but I think that's something. Do you lose Terry on vertical routes because of, and it's not just because Joey Porter Jr. is good at press man. It's because the rush gets there. Like, I remember talking to Fred Smoot about this, and I was like, everyone talks about pressing at receiver, and he's like, yeah, you can press if the rush is getting home. If the rush isn't getting home, you just expose yourself to too much risk. So I think that's where that symbiotic relationship here works really well, and is going to favor. I think it's going to favor Joey Porter Jr. a little bit in this matchup, because it's not, can Terry beat Joey Porter Jr.? Because the answer is definitively yes. It's, can he beat him in 1.7 seconds, which is how long it's going to take the pass rush to get home in certain situations. So that's an interesting matchup, 100%. I kind of think it's more of a, Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, like you're talking about, Austin Eckler out of the backfield type game, because of their other corner is very good. Deontay Jackson, I think he's a very good player. He's the guy that was in Carolina the past couple of years. He's very fast. He's pretty good. He's instinctive at the catch point, but he's not quite as physical. And so I do think there is a little bit of air there. So if you can get a guy that can exploit that matchup, that's one that I really think they should lean into. And I think they have leaned into. I think, we've seen, Noah Browns has his game.
Noah last week had he was their leading receiver, and that doesn't even count the 50 yards of PI penalties he accumulated.
100%. So I do think that matchup feels like it might favor Washington if I'm going to look at something. So it might be his game, and Terry ends up with 3 catches and 2 touchdowns again, and that's totally fine, I'm sure, with Terry. So, yeah. But again, I think that's kind of where I'd look. And I think you gotta be a little bit patient. They play a little bit of man, they play a little bit of cover 3. They're not so much split safety. I was a little bit surprised by that because all these teams are moving to split safety. It's in there. I'm not saying they don't do it, but it wasn't as much as I was expecting. So, I think if there's a matchup in the pass game that I'm kind of looking at, it's probably the Deontay Jackson, Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, whoever's in that role versus him. And again, their nickel, I don't know if he's Beanie Bishop is a guy that, again, I think is played well. I think he's a rookie. Played well, but not played great. So again, whoever the slot receiver is, I feel like those are 2 matchups you want to look at because he's the backup, if I'm not mistaken, and Cameron Sutton, who's been out, is the starter. He may be coming back this week. I don't know, but those are 2 that I would just kind of highlight and say I'm sure Kliff is aware of those in terms of a favorable matchup for Washington.
All right, so we'll see how it goes on Sunday. It's a 1:00 game on CBS if you are looking for it. Charles Davis, Ian Eagle, Evan Washburn on the call. I talked to Charles after the Marshawn Lattimore news earlier in the week, so if you want to check that interview out, go to the Hoffman Show podcast feed or check it out on YouTube at the Team 980 or at Craig Hoffman. We'll be there on Sunday night after the game from Northwest Stadium with our recap show, our instant reaction show, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube if you want to be with us live, or of course it'll be in your podcast feed ASAP after that. And then off we go into a short week, Logan. So it's going to be a jam-packed one next week. Appreciate everyone watching and listening. Subscribe wherever you are doing so right now. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. And we'll see you next time on Take Command. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command, which has a brand new home.
That's right. You can watch on YouTube at the Team 980.
You can also listen to full episodes in the free Odyssey app, which is now enabled with Apple CarPlay. So we'll just, follow you around.